Welcome back to the Sober Sofa. My name is Shanti Patty Owen. I am your host for this channel where we discuss all topics related to addiction and sobriety. Today's topic is love addiction. Does JLO have it? I have been asked by several people in the last couple of weeks since it's become public that JLO and Ben Affleck are separating and seeking a divorce. I don't mean to talk about her to put her down. I'm a love addict. I'm a sex addict. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a gambler. I'm a debtor, all kinds of things. It is not to put her down. It's just that celebrities are the people that most of us have in common. I have done a couple of exposés already. I did one on Matthew Perry. I think I did two on Matthew Perry after he died. And I more recently did one on P. Diddy. So before I get into JLO, I want to read just a few characteristics of love addiction. Fear of emotional and sexual deprivation. We compulsively pursue and involve ourselves in one relationship after another, sometimes having more than one sexual or emotional liaison at a time. We feel empty and incomplete when we are alone. Even though we fear intimacy, we continually search for relationships and sexual contacts. We stay enslaved to emotional dependency, romantic intrigue, and compulsive sexual activities. We assign magical qualities to others. We idealize and pursue them, then blame them for not fulfilling our fantasies and expectations. Before I got sober from my sex and love addiction, I was never alone. That's why I recognize JLo's addiction. She's never without a guy. I call it my safety net. So when I start to feel the relationship might be going south, I start talking to other men, guys that I think could be the next one. So we stuff them in our safety net in case, God forbid, we are alone for a nanosecond. We know exactly where we can go. I want you all to know that JLo is absolutely not unique. I go to the 12-step rooms for sex addiction, for love addiction, and the stories I hear are very similar to hers, never being alone for a nanosecond, constantly in a relationship. But what is unique is that she is such a well-known star, and it is now starting to come out. I'm sure her friends have told her this in the past, but it's now becoming public common knowledge that she very likely has a love addiction. So let me qualify what indeed is a love addict, because it's not love. We in those rooms call it love because it is a dependency issue, a codependency issue. Now, you might want to ask, how did that start? Well, it started in infancy, very early childhood attachment disorder. So the primary caregiver, which is most often the mother, is either neglectful, abusive, or inconsistent in their attachment with the infant, which creates an enormous amount of anxiety for the infant. And then what happens is we grow up and we are constantly searching for that initial attachment. And that's why it's so impossible for us to be alone. Mind you, I have been alone for 5 years, not in a relationship for 5 years. Now, that might seem like an odd thing to be proud of, but I am proud of it because I was forever in a relationship. We're not addicted to love. We're addicted to relationships, that cocoon that we imagine is our safety. We are attached to romance. I hate to admit it, but oftentimes it's not about who the person is. It's about the fantasy we have in our head about who the person is. Romance addiction. I mean, if a guy is whining and dining me and telling me all the most beautiful things I've always wanted to hear about myself, I will fall in love with him. Is it him, or is he hitting those buttons? There have been men that I thought I was incredibly in love with, and after we broke up, it was like, who were they? They didn't exist. I'm not proud of this part of myself, I must tell you. I did have a few true love relationships, but I was not healthy enough to stay in them. So, where do we go from here? Well, for myself, I went to rehab for a little while and then I dove headfirst into the 12-step programs. got a sponsor. Once I finished my steps, I started sponsoring others, being of service. And this is the only way to get sober from love addiction and stay sober. It's one thing to get sober for a certain period of time, but in order to stay sober, you need constant support system. So if you don't like the 12-step model, there are other ways that you can stay sober. I mean, you might have a CSAT therapist, which is a counselor of sex addiction therapy, and they can suggest other groups, but it's very important to have that support system. I am a sober companion, and I have worked with other sex addicts and love addicts and lived with them. I remember this one client I worked with. She wanted to go to an AA meeting. This guy, and it was like 3 hours from where she lived. I knew for sure it was just because she wanted to see that guy. And I put the kibosh on it. Of course, she screamed at me for a week. Sometimes you need an in-house person. If your love addiction is so entrenched, it's really hard to see at the beginning. I must tell you, I could see my sex addiction. It's like, oh, I'm having sex or I'm not having sex. But the intrigue, the constant communication for validation. Oh God, the attention. So celebrities, I was an actress also. I was a fashion model. We crave attention. There's no doubt about it. We crave attention. People don't go into those professions that want to hide. It's a way to get that attention, but it doesn't last for very long because the real attention we need to give ourselves is from ourselves. If you ask me what I think JLO should do, I think she needs to go to rehab for love addiction. It's a very rigorous program. So I think what she could do best for her own soul, her own heart, and her reputation is to go to rehab for love addiction. And when she comes out, get a sober companion to live with her for an extended period of time, a few months, maybe even a year, because love addiction is really sneaky. Most process addictions are very sneaky. They're not black and white, like I drank, I didn't drink. I took a drug, I didn't take a drug. Sex, a little easier to see. I think we kind of know when we had sex or not. But it's the emotional component, hard to catch. So that's what I have for you guys today. Thank you all for subscribing to my channel, for hitting the bell notifications and thumbs up to my videos. And please also forward my videos to anybody you think would benefit from them. And if you'd like to send me a private email, you can reach me at sobersofa@gmail.com. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you next time.